Chapter 6093. Hearing what Jacob said, Charlie guessed that he should already know about Mei Qing's intention to marry Pollard. So, Charlie said, "Dad, I happen to be not far away. Let's go over now and meet at the door." Jacob choked up and said, "Okay, then I won't drive and go to the door to wait for you." "Okay, son-in-law." "Hurry up." "Okay." Charlie agreed, but still deliberately delayed for a few minutes after hanging up the phone. After all, Pollard had just left, and he was also on his way to pick up Mei Qing from the University for the Elderly. If he went there now, the four of them might bump into each other at the school gate, which would be even more embarrassing. Charlie is not afraid of embarrassment. He is afraid that his father-in-law will be further irritated. After deliberately delaying for a while, Charlie drove to the University for the Elderly. And when he was going to the University for the Elderly, Mei Qing was waiting for Pollard on the roadside at the main gate. Jacob also left the university in despair at this time. But when he saw Mei Qing standing on the roadside from a distance, he subconsciously stopped. At this moment, he was extremely lacking in self-confidence. In fact, he had always had this self-knowledge and knew that there was no slight difference between him and Pollard. Pollard is a true senior intellectual. He is highly educated and knowledgeable. Not only did he make great achievements in the financial field back then, he is now a professor and has a high social status in this city. Moreover, Pollard is taller, better built, and more handsome than me. He is even more eloquent than me. He can speak English, Korean, and Spanish easily. The most important thing is that he is also versatile and can dance, can play musical instruments, and can sing better than the average person. But in front of him, I am nothing. Therefore, Jacob could only rely on one thing to regain his confidence in front of Pollard. That is, Mei Qing loved herself, not Pollard. Sometimes, he would even feel complacent about it. So what if he, Pollard, is better and greater than him? The woman who like him doesn't like this man, but has liked him instead for more than 30 years. Things like relationships are so unreasonable. But now? The only advantage he had to save face was gone, and was even taken away by the other party and became his advantage, which made him feel even more inferior. Therefore, when he saw Mei Qing waiting for Pollard from a distance, his first reaction was to quickly turn away, find a thick tree, and use the trunk to block his face. Soon, Pollard drove his domestic new energy vehicle to the roadside. Jacob hid behind the tree, furtively revealing one eye to look at it from a distance, and couldn't help but murmur to himself, "DMN, you have the nerve to come out in such a broken car. The key is that you don't even have a glass film on it. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to lift the front of this car." While he was complaining in a low voice, Mei Qing had already sat in the passenger seat with Pollard with a smile on her face. Then, a scene happened that made Jacob collapse. Mei Qing and Pollard involuntarily approached each other. And then Kay said across the armrest of the car. In fact, the two middle-aged and elderly lovers are usually relatively reserved. After being together, they have rarely been so intimate outside. But things are really different today, because from now on, they will actually start preparing for their wedding, which is another new milestone in their relationship. Moreover, Mei Qing was very moved by Pollard's actions. After returning to China, Mei Qing met many middle-aged and elderly people at the university, and also saw some middle-aged and elderly people falling in love. In her opinion, middle-aged and elderly people in China rarely get married when they fall in love, and more often each of them sets their own conditions. As listed out, both parties negotiate amicably, just like business cooperation negotiations. If possible, they will become partners directly. However, for the sake of themselves and their children, they will rarely choose to get married or hold a wedding. The situation in the United States is also quite special. Most Westerners are more cautious about marriage. Many people have been together for many years and have several children, but they are still boyfriend and girlfriend. They are together and have children together. Raising does not necessarily mean marriage. When many people actually enter the marriage hall, they already might have children. It is precisely because of this environment that when old people in the West fall in love, they often just fall in love, and at most they develop into cohabitation, and very few get married. But Pollard acted like a young man in love, inviting his girl to travel, preparing a proposal ceremony at the beach without telling her, and kneeling down to propose with a ring. These actions moved Mei-ching and gave her an unprecedented sense of security. Now, Pollard has taken a big step forward in the wedding of the two of them, and has set the wedding date in just 1 week, which makes her even more happy. The kiss is also the best portrayal of the two people's mood at this time. However, Jacob, who was crying from the bottom of his heart and peeping from a distance, made him even more depressed. After the two kissed for a few seconds, their faces were filled with happy and bright smiles, and then Pollard drove away happily. When Jacob saw the car disappearing around the corner, his heart collapsed and despaired. He slid to the ground with his back against the sycamore tree. His tears kept flowing like a bursting dam. He was so angry that he even subconsciously slammed towards the ground. I punched him a few times, but luckily it was on dirt. Otherwise, his fingers would have been injured. At this time, the familiar voice came again. "Vice President, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying again? Has your son-in-law come to pick you up?"